We had ended class with the Dust Bowl and the Oakies and the Arkies. In 1933, a prolonged drought struck the states of the Trans-Mississippi Great Plains. Burned and blown out of the Dust Bowl, tens of thousands of refugees fled their ruined acres. So the whole West was affected by this prolonged drought. Not 1 or 2 years, but 3, 4, 5, 6 years. The people from Oklahoma were called Oakies, those from Arkansas, Arkies. Some did, yes, go to Florida and other places in the country, but many of them hopped on Route 66, made their way out to California, hoping to find jobs in the agricultural industry there. Tens of thousands of them flooded into the Golden State. The damage that was done in the years preceding this would take years to repair. There had been quite a few years of very abundant rain, and so people had put areas that never were meant to be growing corn and wheat under the plow. Then when the drought hits, the land dries up. Year after year, no rain. The whole organic top level of soil was completely blown out of this region of the United States. We would learn from it, though, and begin to make some changes in how we plowed fields, in creating windbreaks every mile or so by planting hedgerows of trees to try and somehow slow the wind down. But huge damage between the 10-year period of the 30s and 40s, the Dust Bowl timetable. Here you see a vehicle with a huge dust storm raging behind it, headed its way. These dust storms could last a few hours. They could last a day and a half, 2 days or longer. Everything is covered as if it were snow instead of sand being driven. There's no roots left because all of the ground has been plowed up. The old prairie grass roots that would have held the dirt down is gone, and all this dirt is exposed to the elements. And so with year after year of drought, all that dirt suddenly becomes transient. Huge storm billowing in the background. Both of these pictures. The damage to people's lungs, eyes, was just phenomenal. Many people went blind if caught out in a position where they could not get in from the storm, and being caught out included an automobile. You could not keep the dust away in such an environment. And I had shown you in class, this woman, her skirt is made out of some kind of a feed sack, or a flour sack, or a sugar sack, or a grain sack, something like that. This is not 1 year of poverty, this is multiple years. And finally, the family will give up and simply say, we have to leave. We cannot continue not knowing when rain will fall again. Abandoned homes, shacks, buildings, sand like snow banks against houses. And of course, if you have your home and you're inside, what keeps the dust and everything from coming down the chimney? Absolutely nothing. The whole side of the building covered in a sandbank. The storms rolled in, and it was almost like night. The dust was so thick and black. Yes, some people had masks that they could wear against the dust to try and protect their lungs, but most country folk had no such thing. And the young were particularly vulnerable to the attack of dust on their lungs, causing suffocation. Farms began to be sold for taxes. If you can't grow anything year after year after year, you have nothing to sell, you have no way to make your mortgage, to pay your taxes. Everything that couldn't be transported in your car or truck had to be sold or left behind. As they head out from Arkansas and Oklahoma to go to the promised land of California. Hopefully, you had a vehicle. If not, you walked and hoped to hitch a ride with somebody or catch a bus or something. Town after town had experienced too many people flooding in, and so it was not always very welcoming when these people, hobos, individual men, or families, descended upon these towns. Here, California, the eucalyptus trees. People flooded each farm, hoping to find work, picking whatever crop was ready to be picked at that time, whether it was fruit, avocados, nuts, or working out in the fields with vegetables and things like that. Abject desperation, loss of hope written on these people's faces. They're on some kind of a built-up something to keep them off the ground, and here just hanging blankets to try and keep the sun off of them. Here, a family, obviously no mode of transportation, gonna try and jump on a train and make it out west. Only what they can carry is all that they can take. Once they reach California, they're trying to get any type of job in agriculture that they can get. Backbreaking, hard work. Men, women, children alike did the work on the farms. Here it looks like they're picking beets. They have put up some kind of a tarp and their vehicle under it to try and protect from the heat, and everything that they own they have brought with them in their vehicle. The old washboard. Most people wouldn't even know what that was anymore. Used to wash clothes on those. Not myself, but the people used to. Workers' camps, tents, living in vehicles, whatever they could possibly manage was all they had to live in there. Now, some camps had shacks that were set up for migrant workers to live in, others did not. This picture, whatever they could get to try and hold up a tarp over them so they are not in the sun. And here, another camp. You've got a clothesline there, people hanging their clothes out to dry after having washed them, living in trailers, living in little shacks, whatever is available. Car is covered, possibly living in the car, sleeping in the car. John Steinbeck wrote his famous book, The Grapes of Wrath, which described this time period. It takes a fictitious family, the Joad family, and their trip from Oklahoma out to California, and how they were received once they got there, and how horrible conditions were. The state of California, when his book was published, made it illegal to possess, to buy and sell the book in Kern County, where he had placed the camp that the Joad family arrived at. It was very unflattering about Kern County, very factual, but very unflattering. And so the county did not like the bad press that they were receiving from the book, and so it was illegal to own the book in Kern County when it first came out. Dust from the Midwest affected the entire nation. It was said on particular days when the dust storms would come clear across from the Midwest that the capital city was darkened as if it were nighttime. The dust was that bad. Here you have the Lincoln Memorial on the Washington Square, and you can see how dark it has become. And this is thousands of miles from where this dirt originated from. Here, once again, ladies in Washington, D.C., rushing from place to place. You can hardly see the buildings, the homes behind them, and cloths, handkerchiefs over the nose, trying to keep the dust out. Once again, during this time period, as during the war, people did everything to try and conserve. This was the Depression. Everyone was hurting. Everyone was, 1/3 the nation was out of work. And so once again, industry began making sacks that the product you would receive in was made out of cloth that had been printed so that you could then make clothing, as this woman has done for herself and her child. This is Parade brand of something, possibly flour, who knows. Here at a factory, they're actually using printed material that you could later cut out and make into a stuffed bunny for your child or grandchild. So if you bought this sack of whatever, you had the pattern on the one side for your toy for your child. Other ones, yes, you can see the printing. Do you want your dress out of this material or this material? That's how you chose what sack of flour you bought. They would advertise that they had the best material, the best ginghams for their flour sack. And here, a newspaper article about buying and making your clothing from the sacks. Here, 2 women, they've got their patterns selected. And here, that's the same material as in her dress. Printed patterns so that you could cut out and make your own dresses from these sacks. Here, people are showing off as with pride, not with disgrace, that they have been industrious Americans and have made clothing out of the flour sacks. Here, this woman has provided not only for her and her husband, but her children as well, clothing made out of the flour sacks. The TVA harnesses the Tennessee Valley. The tempestuous Tennessee River provided New Dealers with a rare opportunity. With its tributaries and the river drained a badly eroded area about the size of England, and one containing about 2.5 million of the most poverty-stricken people in America. The Tennessee Valley Authority is not one dam. It is a series of many, many dams that are created to control this Tennessee River. This Tennessee River, as you can see, has many, many tributaries that eventually flow into the Tennessee River and out through Illinois. So this is a whole network area that is consumed by this river system. And it was very common on regular basis for these rivers in flood years to overflow and ruin the homes, the farms of people that lived along this river tributary system. And so if you were a wealthy person, you wouldn't buy in that area because, hey, I may get everything built up, and 5 years later, a big wet year comes through, my land is flooded, my house is flooded, my barn floats away, and I'm back to ground zero. It's only the poor people, because this is cheap land. No one wants to live there. And they never seem to get ahead because they're constantly being flooded and having to start over again. So this area really was the hillbillies. Some of the poorest, most poverty-stricken part of America. 2.5 million people lived in this green area that was dominated by the Tennessee River and its tributaries. An act creating the Tennessee Valley Authority, the TVA. Remember that, that's one of the big ones. The TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, was passed in 1933 by that 100-day Congress. This is one of the biggies he wants to get through. This new agency was determined to discover precisely how much the production and distribution of electricity cost, so that a yardstick could be set up to test the fairness of rates charged by private companies. Private companies had put hydroelectric dams up and were charging the people in the vicinity money for their electricity, as they should. If I build the dam and I create the hydroelectric power, you therefore have to pay if you want electricity in your house and in your office and buildings. The problem was, were these private individuals gouging unnecessarily the public? Well, the government had no way of controlling it. Remember, this is the time period of busting up all the trusts and monopolies and whatnot. There was no way of knowing, are they charging a fair price or not, because the government was not in the business of hydroelectric power. So in this one instance, with the TVA, the government said, we are going to be putting in all of these dams and creating hydroelectric power. We now will know how much it costs to produce hydroelectric power. So if you in another area of the country are selling hydroelectric power, we know whether you're gouging or not, because we built many dams and we know what the cost is to build, run, and process this hydroelectric power. so we can see the fairness of your rates. The once poverty-stricken, cursed area was being transformed by all of these dams that were being built into one of the most flourishing regions of the country. This is during a time period of unemployment. Suddenly, the government is building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. You got about 30 dams that are being created. Plus, you got a few over here on this other tributary of the Cumberland River, which was not part of the Tennessee Valley Authority. 27 dams. You are going to need an awful lot of workers. So is this area going to receive an awful lot of government aid simply in the way of employment checks to workers? Remember, the purpose was to create jobs on useful projects. Is this a useful project? Yes. Does it affect just one state? No, it affected Tennessee, it affects Alabama, and other states around. Georgia would probably be, got two of them here down here in Georgia, but everyone would be getting use and benefit of this hydroelectric power. North Carolina has got a good number of the dams in their state as well. So a useful project affecting many. Huge dams. I mentioned before, lots of cement. The Tennessee Valley Authority, like all of the others, used an awful lot of cement in their building of dams. From little dams that would be transformed into huge permanent structures. And once you've dammed up the river, you have lakes oftentimes for recreation, for fishing, for many other purposes that are created behind the banks. But the main purpose is for flood control. Too much rain, don't let all that water go downriver. Protect the homes, the farms that are downriver. If you are suddenly bringing in all these workers, you need to provide housing. And as quick as they could slap them up, these houses would be filled with people who are working for the TVA. And so once the project is finished, you could stay and continue to live there. Or if you moved on, this housing was still available in the area. So it created a lot of cheap housing in a once poverty-stricken part of the country. The effects were phenomenal, not only on stopping flooding, but you got electricity for anyone who wanted to connect with it, and such things as cheap nitrates. Here, the TVA is showing they did 2 fields. This one, they put nitrates on, fertilizers. This one did not have. And look at the difference in the 2 fields. You would get a crop off of this. You would not get anything off of this. And so it brings prosperity to the whole region. Not, let's say I don't even want electricity. Just the fact that the floods are being controlled makes my property valuable and usable year after year after year. I'm not worried of being flooded out. And Social Security. The Social Security Act was passed in 1935, so a couple years into his first term. It provided for federal and state unemployment insurance. This was to provide security for old age. Specified categories of retired workers were to receive regular payments from Washington. Initially, Social Security was a system you could sign up for, but you didn't have to. Sometime in the, I think, 1960s, the government changed it and you did not have a choice anymore. Everyone who worked had to have Social Security deducted from their paychecks. Now, you say, oh no, I know people who don't. Yes, there are select categories that don't have Social Security taken because the company or industry has their own system set up. Such things as railroad workers. They have their own Social Security. It's not Social Security, but their own old age pension set up. Police. Firefighters fall under that category. Many teachers as well. When I was in California and in Florida and in El Paso, I did not have to pay into the teacher's retirement program. I could opt and have my money go to Social Security. But since I've been working at Lone Star College, that is not an option. And so my money does not go to Social Security for retirement, but goes to the teacher's retirement organization. The Social Security was not just for old age. It was also for people who were handicapped, whether physically or mentally, children who had lost a parent or parents. Social Security is not welfare. Social Security is a federal and state unemployment insurance. It is insurance, not welfare. And you as an individual pay into it. That is your dollars going into it. So should something happen during your life or when you're ready to retire, do you have the right to get that money back? Absolutely. That is your money you paid into the system. People were not having enough to provide for themselves in old age. Plus, the Great Depression, the banks collapsed. Many people who had saved money over the years and were now retired, their money was gone. Now what were they to do? They were too old to get out there and work, and yet they had no money to live on. Well, Social Security is the government choosing. Hey, some of you may never think ahead and plan for yourself. So the government is going to do it for you. And a percentage of every check, every dollar that you earn goes into Social Security. You do not get that back unless it is time to collect it. Once again, very different than welfare. This is insurance. That's your money. You have the right to pull it out. The system is broader in scope than I can completely understand, but there are a few aspects of it that I do understand. This is what, when I was younger, was the Social Security form that if you wanted to know, hey, I'm 23, hey, I'm 33, hey, I'm 43, what can I anticipate on receiving when I retire from Social Security? This is the one side, you fold it in half. Social Security offices on this side, you put your address there, and you would fill out the form, which looked like this on the other side, folded in half. stick it together and you send it off to Social Security. Based on your Social Security number, they would calculate how much you had paid into the system during your earning years, or based upon, I'm only 35, but based upon what I have paid in so far, what can I estimate for when I get to 65 and start pulling out? So they will send you a statement saying, based upon what earnings we have for you, and they'll list what earnings, you will receive this amount per month. It is good every 3 years to fill out one of these and send into Social Security, because sometimes people will use someone else's Social Security number, or your Social Security number won't get submitted correctly. And if you receive this back and you say, hey, I worked this whole other job and they're not giving me any credit for it on what I should receive when I go to retire. You have 3 years only to make corrections with Social Security. Well, it wasn't my fault. Doesn't matter. You have 3 years. So if you have some parents who are getting close to Social Security age and they haven't a clue what they're going to be receiving, I would strongly suggest, very easy to fill out, you can see here, that they get one of these forms and fill it out. Or you get it for them so they can fill it out. The new form looks like this, still divided in half. This was the old form. This is the new form, same information. The old form, what they had on here, I really appreciated. Social Security Administration request for earnings and benefit estimate statement. Social Security is a program that touches the lives of nearly all Americans. Although many people think it is only a retirement program, it is actually a package of protection that provides for you and your family when you retire, become severely disabled. You become disabled, cannot work anymore, you are allowed to collect your Social Security benefits. Well, I'm not 65 yet. That's fine. If it's 45, you get injured in such a way that you cannot do work anymore, you are entitled to collect Social Security benefits because you bought insurance. That's what insurance is. Or die. Social Security is a base. Repeat that after me. Base, base, base. You can build on now and in the future with savings, other insurance, and investments. When they created this, they did not intend on Joe Fred American living on Social Security. There are too many Americans that have reached retirement age and they have only a couple of $1,000s in a bank account saved, and they are anticipating on living the good life on Social Security. I can retire now. Let me tell you, you are not going to be living the good life on Social Security. You are going to be living below the poverty level. This is a base. So many Americans do not know that. This is a base you can build on now and then in the future with your own savings. Are you regularly saving, putting aside? Used to be companies had pensions. Now the day and age of companies having pensions is almost gone. And so instead they will offer you 401ks where you save a certain amount every month and will add to that based on different percentages. But you are expected to have your own savings, have insurances. That's what you buy insurance for. Whether term or whole life, that money will be there for you later. And investments. Do you have stocks? Do you have property you've bought? Do you have bonds? They do not base. They do not intend on you living on this. You will have one miserable existence. To help you plan for your financial future, I am pleased to offer you a free statement that shows your Social Security earnings history, tells you how much you have paid in to Social Security taxes, estimates your future Social Security benefits, and provides some general information about how the program works. To receive your statement, simply fill this out, send it in, and within about 6 weeks, you'll get an answer back. When you get your paycheck every week, bi-weekly, monthly, however you get, there's little categories: federal taxes, state taxes. No, Texas does not have a state tax. There's only a couple of states that don't have state tax. Texas does not have state tax. Florida does not have state tax, but most states have state tax, so they're also deducting state tax. Then there's this little category called FICA, F-I-C-A, and every paycheck, some of your money goes into FICA. What is FICA, and why do I never get FICA back? FICA is Social Security. You are paying into that. Okay, I'm a student and I earn less than X amount, and so I am by law allowed to receive all of my federal tax that I pay in on my paychecks back. Yes, there are laws. If you are a student and whatnot, they may take it out initially, but then when you file your income tax, you get that back. Do you ever get that FICA back? No, you do not get the FICA back. That goes into Social Security, which is sitting there hoping to be there when you become severely disabled, retire, or die. So that never returns. And 7.5% is approximately what is paid in FICA. Your employer matches that and puts in approximately 7.5%. So approximately 15% of what you own, of what you earn each time, goes to Social Security. Half paid by you, half paid by your employer. The new form I do not like because it does not talk about that base. It says is allowed to collect the, it says it's, okay, where is my intro here? Thank you for requesting the statement, 4 to 6 weeks. Social Security is more than just a program for retired people. It helps people of all ages in many ways, whether they are young or old, male or female, single or a family. Social Security can help you when you need it most. It can help support your family in the event of your death and pay you benefits if you become severely disabled. It doesn't mention the base. I am so annoyed. You have to keep reminding people this is a base. You cannot live off of this. Disabled children. I currently fall into that category. Our family does. And my daughter, who is Down syndrome, when she hit age 18, we had to do all the paperwork with the government. But because she is permanently mentally disabled, she at age 18 began collecting Social Security benefits. Is it enough to live off of? Absolutely not. But it assists the family in helping taking care of adult children. If you have both parents and children and one should die, one of the parents should die, that reduces the income per family. And so the dependents, the children, are allowed to collect Social Security because one of their parents is deceased. If both parents are deceased, then the amount of Social Security obviously would be even greater. But for children of parents who pass, I think Social Security ends at 18. But until age 18, you would receive, the other parent would receive money for the child to help with their livelihood because it is insurance, and it is in case of death, the other spouse passed away, it now will pay benefits. And yes, each form. too many people think I'm going to live the good life when I retire with Social Security. Certain agencies of the federal government have borrowed from Social Security. Social Security used to have a large chunk of money, and it was gathering interest to be given back to citizens once they retired. Well, some agencies dipped into that with the idea we'll leave an IOU and give it back later. Well, IOUs are not able to be paid back, and Social Security has been robbed of a lot of its money. And so we have a real problem going on in America. First of all, if you can see my little arrow here, we used to be a society that looked like this triangle, meaning we had many young people at the bottom paying in Social Security, and once you hit I should make a graph of this. Once you hit 65, there's not very many people still living. Old age back in the olden days, before all of the life-saving medications and equipment that we have, was not as long as it is today. And for someone to make it to 85, hey, that was a ripe old age. But nowadays, and you had all these people down here at the bottom that were paying in. As time has gone on in the United States, our triangle is looking more like this. And we have far fewer people. Families are smaller and smaller. Yes, in agrarian areas, you still have people who have 8 kids and 10 kids and whatnot. But for the most part, many city dwellers have opted to have smaller families, and people are living longer, pulling out Social Security longer. So you have less paying in, and the fact that we robbed the system, and more people pulling out for longer. How long before the system goes bankrupt? Well, that is a problem. And to try and help alleviate that, the government has done such things as saying you used to be able to retire at 62. You'd get less, but full retirement was at 65. Now they can't afford for people to start retiring at 65. And so they are moving the age up. And by the time you young uns go to retiring, you may have to work till 75 before you can collect your benefits, because there's so little being paid in versus what is being pulled out. Even now, they are strongly urging people to be careful about retiring too early. I think possibly that even I might have to go to 66 to collect my full benefits. I'm not sure if I'm still in that category of being able to retire at 65 with full benefits. I'm not quite sure. Monthly benefit amounts differ based on age you decide to start receiving the benefits. Here, let's say you're getting your full benefit of $1,000 a month. If you retire at age 66, you would get $1,000. 65, you would get 933. 866, 800, 750. Now that doesn't mean I get 750 until I hit 65, then I get 900. No, you will get 750 from here on out. So the longer you can wait, if you can wait till age 70 before you retire and start pulling out your benefits, you're going to get more money. Now, you have to counteract that with the fact that you didn't receive all those thousands for the last 4 years. 1,000 times 12 times 4, that's what's that, $50,000 you didn't pull out. So should you receive more? Yes. Are you going to live long enough to make it worthwhile versus pulling out at 62? That's all going to depend upon what you have in savings, what you have in other plans. This was a chart I found from 2014 poverty guidelines for the 48 contiguous states, and the District of Columbia. So it does not include Alaska and Hawaii, which are not connected. One person income, household, you're by yourself. Federal poverty line was $11,670. If you have 4 people in your family, to be at the poverty level, your family must earn $23,000. If you have 8 people in your family, to be at the poverty level, you must have $40,000. For family households with more than 8 persons, you just add that per each time. Households, individuals, less than 25,000. Right here's 25,000. That household earns less than 25,000. And where did we say? Okay, household is usually considered to be 4. Household of 4 poverty level is 23, almost 24,000. So if you are a household of 4, you are at the poverty level right here, earning 20. That means 28% of Americans, households, live at the poverty level. Individuals living at the poverty level. We have, oh wait, this is not the poverty level. Individuals earned about $43,000, 42%. 25,000. Or I'm sorry, 23. There was 28, 23 for households. 23%. Now there you're getting a little. There's 25. You're getting pretty close to the poverty level. So you got 28% of Americans just slightly above it, 23% here, 18%, 10%, 100,000 or more. Hey, we jumped there. 15% of Americans, households, are earning 100,000 or more. Now, this 23 is in that, 28, that 17's in that, this is in that. But we've got almost a third of Americans living at the poverty level. Share of U.S. households in the lowest third of income distribution. 53%, the highest bracket, 53% of African American families are in the lowest third of income distributions. 45% of Latino American families are in the lowest third of income distribution. That's over half. That's almost a half. 32, 1/3 of white families live in the lowest third income distribution. And 30% of Asian Americans. As a whole, Asian Americans are doing a little bit better than white Americans are doing. In order to collect Social Security, a worker has to have at least 11 years of earnings to qualify for the special minimum benefit. This is the special minimum benefit. With a minimum amount earned each year. That minimum gets changed each year based on inflation. For 2019, a person would have to have earned at least $4,805 to reach the minimum, of which you need 11 years. You need 40 credits, 10 years of employment. But if you have a very low earnings, they want you to have 11 years of earning before you can qualify under the special minimum benefit purposes. if you are planning on not working a lot during your life, make sure you work 10 years. You get 4 credits per year. The year's divided into 4 quarters. You must work 10 years, 40 quarters, 40 units, credits in order to get your Social Security full benefits. But if you earn very little, you qualify under this minimum benefit. Here, the years you have worked and the minimum benefit at full retirement excuse me, age. So, if you've only worked 11 years at this, you are going to get $41 a month. Ooh, how wonderful. If you've worked 12 years, 85, all the way up to 30 units or more. 10, 20, you got to work a lifetime, and you're going to receive $872 a month. Now, I went online, and based on 40 credits, 10 years of employment, a minimum wage earner, all of their life, would, at age 65 years old, receive $915 per month. So you're just a little bit ahead of this group here, this minimum benefit group. But if all you've ever earned your whole life long, you've worked your whole life, got your 40 credits, at age 65, you will get $915 a month. If you pull out early at 62, $679. But if you wait till age 70, you'd get $1,200 per month. Never worked or married, you fall under SSI, Supplemental Security Income. And to receive that, you must have no assets. You can't own a home. You can't have a bank account with a big bunch of money. You have to be able to prove to the government that your total resources is less than $2,000. You really have not earned, not saved, not bought a house. You're renting, and all you got is some old furniture to consider as an asset. Then, at retirement, you may collect SSI. Depending upon your age at claiming, spousal benefits can range from 32.5% to 50% of your husband's or wife's primary insurance amount. So let's say you are a female and your husband is working. He may have earned more than you, so you would like to not collect this $905, you're hoping for more. Well, if he's earned a good deal, he's paid in a good deal, so he will therefore be bringing home more in Social Security. So you can figure out, is 32.5% all the way up to 50? I'm sure you have to go through a process to tell you. They would tell you what percentage you would get. You would get that percentage of his. And if it is greater than the minimum amount, or maybe it's this minimum amount, I don't know, then you could claim to collect half of your husband's. Also, if one or the other should die, say the wife receives less Social Security than the husband, and the husband dies, the wife is allowed to assume the husband's, and I hope I'm getting this right, the husband's Social Security amount, the larger amount, but she then loses her amount. So she would then jump up to that amount. Okay, 50% of a husband's or wife's primary insurance amount, the retirement benefit to which he or she is entitled at full retirement age, regardless of the amount of the spousal benefit. It does not affect the amount of their mate's retirement payment. When I lived in El Paso, I worked a number of jobs. Worked at the community college there, constantly part-time, and I also worked as one of my jobs at a funeral home. And we would go and talk to people who wanted to pre-plan their funeral. And that way the family at time of death wouldn't have to be trying to figure out, well, what does mom or dad want and what can we do for them? And so many of these people were, back then, minimum amount for Social Security was about $535. And they were trying to live on that. And every summer, the news would have about how many, well, today, someone in the Northeast died of heat exposure. And constantly, those desert temperatures and these old people dying in their houses. And you're thinking, why didn't they turn on their air conditioner? Because they were living on $500 some a month, because they were living on Social Security. Till you pay $300 for the crappiest apartment you could find, that's already half your money, a little more than half. Then you got to pay water, you got to pay electricity, air conditioning runs on electricity, then you got to buy food, and if you have a car, you got to pay insurance for your car, you got to pay your own insurance if you have a death insurance. You cannot live on $500 and some a month. And so we would constantly in the summer have these accounts on TV of people who had by themselves, living alone in their apartments, had passed away, elderly people, due to the excessive heat. So if your parents have not planned ahead and they are planning on retiring and have earned minimal amounts their whole life long, they are not going to be having a Winnebago and going around the country and seeing the United States, enjoying their retirement. They are going to be not even scraping by, and they will be moving in with you. Oh, lucky you. So that they can somehow manage to pay for their drugs that they need. By drugs, I mean medications, not illegal drugs. So please plan ahead. For those of you that are young in their 20s, I don't know if Social Security will even be there when you go to retire. And the fact that they are right now upping the age for each couple of years before you can retire, whatever chance you ever have with a company to invest in a 401k, do that. Do the maximum amount that they will allow you to do with company participation. Invest in bonds, stocks, property. Have a bank account, whatever you need to do, because once again, Social Security is not meant to be lived on. It is a base you can build on. And I do believe we are out of time. We will pick up with the New Deal for labor in our next segment.